Hello and welcome to another Monday Total Soccer Show, the second of the day. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by the last wonder of the world. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, the last wonder of the world. That's slightly apocalyptic, but I'll take it.
Well, this is what Mourinho said Liverpool were not after United's 0-0 draw at Anfield.
Yeah, we got prickly Mourinho at the end of this game. Yep.
And I think it was him proving a point that they're not unstoppable, because pretty much what Mourinho did was stop Liverpool.
Yes.
And we're going to talk on this show about how that happened, how this game finished 0-0. But I'm also wondering, I think there's been a bad reaction to this in a way, almost as if stopping Liverpool is not enough when you're the Manchester United manager.
I think when you have like one of the most, if not the most expensive squad in history, stopping Liverpool is probably not enough.
Wait, is that a financial fact?
I can't say that for sure. I'm pretty sure it's up there. It's definitely like one of the most expensive squads ever assembled. I would guess it's probably the most, yes.
I guess Pogba. So, I told you this earlier, right? My dad, who is, a soccer fan but not in on all the news, only found out this morning about Paul Pogba costing £90 million, right? Yep. Just because he'd really zeroed in on this game, because he's like, Monday night I'm watching that game, because it's a big game. And he was kind of all excited to watch this £90 million footballer.
Yeah.
Do you think he would have seen £90 million worth of value?
No, I don't. I think you would have seen £90 million of discipline, maybe?
Yes.
I mean, I think it was definitely not the unleashed, go at them, do what you want, freestyle, dance a little bit, have bleached blonde hair. He didn't even have that in this game. Pogba, that we've come to know and love.
Did he get a sensible hairstyle just for this game to reflect his sort of discipline?
I honestly wondered if he did. But then you look closer and he's got a lot of different stuff shaved into the side of it, so it's not that sensible. It's still flashy, just not as like blonde and red flashy.
So let's start with Paul Pogba then.
Sure.
Because I think on first watch, I was worried that maybe he didn't quite know what he was doing. On second watch, we sort of figured out that we think part of the reason United was so successful at stopping Liverpool creating chances starts with the slightly odd thing that Paul Pogba was doing.
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah, because I mean, in the preview, my expectation was that you would have Herrera and Pogba starting in like a 4-2-3-1 with Juan Mata ahead of them. Instead, what you kind of ended up getting was Fellaini sitting deep with Herrera kind of jumping back and forth, and Pogba almost as like a second striker.
Yeah, he was a bit a second striker and a bit an extra midfielder, right?
Yeah, and that was pretty intentional. Number one, to try to stop Liverpool from possessing out of the back. So every time Liverpool had a goal kick, save one time when they took it incredibly quickly. And
that was early, right?
Yeah. Outside of that, you always had Pogba and Zlatan pressed up.
Because they didn't want Liverpool to play the ball short out of the back and build. They forced the long goal kick. And when you have the long goal kick, we figured this out. You've got Smalling, you've got Fellaini, you've got Eric Bailly, you've even got Daley Blind. All these guys can win balls in the air. I feel like United dominated in the air and forced Liverpool to go there when they didn't want to go there.
Right, and I think once you start forcing them into taking those goal kicks long, and then when you have Zlatan cutting off angles and Pogba cutting off angles, again, you're kind of forcing long passes through the middle that are always going to be hit with pace, which is going to kind of always leave room for maybe like a sloppy touch that then United can pounce upon. Or if it's a ball out of the top, then it's going to be a 50-50 challenge, big aerial challenge, and that's why you have that big blonde fro in midfield.
And there's big feet, because I feel like he won a lot of just straight-up tackles, right? It wasn't all headers, but Fellaini was magnificent at eating everything that came through the middle.
Yeah, I did think, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter being very negative about this game, and I understand why. And I will say I'm also a United fan, so grain of salt there. I don't necessarily think that my being a United fan shades this too much, but you're obviously in a position to disagree. But I did think Mourinho set out to get a 0-0 result, maybe snatch a 1-0 win, but his biggest thing was concede no goals, shut down Liverpool, have a defensively organized game, and then if you get a goal, you do. But if you don't, then 1 point away at Anfield against a Liverpool team that have looked very good, that's passable.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because I think a defeat for United here means that the season starts to spiral a little bit.
Yeah.
But a 0-0, very Mourinho-y draw, right? Almost like Inter away to Barcelona, that kind of thing.
Yeah, my buddy Scott was kind enough to text me, it's fitting that United wear blue since they look so much like Chelsea in this game.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yep.
I want to get back to that Pogba thing, right? Because I think he represents sort of Mourinho's whole approach. The thing we figured out he was doing was not man-marking anyone on the defensive side. It was just shutting down passing lanes. It's almost like his job was to go and be like a mobile shield, just shutting things down as he goes.
And if you ever wanted to see an example of a player who's been drilled in a grid system or in like a specific marking space system, watch Pogba in this game.
Yeah.
Because he consistently drops back into the same general like 10 by 10 area, and then he drops back further into another like 10 by 10 area. But it's clearly designed to block off whatever passing channels that Liverpool utilize that Jose Mourinho's staff have identified.
He was like the parental lock on channels. When you don't want your kids going to certain channels, you put Pogba in front of it, and then Liverpool players can't see through it.
And if I were to give way too much credit to Jose Mourinho, which is what I'm about to do, I saw a few different write-ups in preparation for this game, both about like what both teams will try to do, but also what's been the problem with Paul Pogba. And I cannot remember who wrote it, so I apologize. But it was basically this idea was that Pogba has been playing in the middle of United's midfield, but he keeps drifting too far forward. And then once he gets forward, if he's supposed to be one of your holding midfielders, there's a huge gap in the midfield that other teams can occupy.
Yeah.
And it felt a little bit like what we would see was Herrera and Fellaini stay back a little bit, Pogba step forward, and there was still that gap there, but it almost felt designed. So that as soon as a Liverpool player would step into that space to try to receive the ball, either Fellaini or Herrera or Pogba or even Zlatan would be on them really quickly. And it sort of like almost felt like a little bit of a trap of like you play the ball in here and it looks safe, but then we're going to be on you and try to transition quickly.
This Belgian or this Spaniard are going to eat it.
Yep.
Right? We're going to eat it up and we're going to try and send it back to you.
Or foul you.
Or foul you. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much 50-50, right? They either foul or they would win the ball. The thing where I feel like Pogba didn't look like a £90 million footballer is that when United did break, there was some like, I don't say heavy touches, it was almost like he took too long. There was a lot of like bringing the ball down out of the air, and I think maybe in Serie A he's thinking he'd have more time, but instead they're up against a Klopp Liverpool and they're on him immediately.
And that's the thing where I think fairly early on we both kind of looked at United's options like going forward and kind of realized like, oh boy, this is going to be not the attacking goal fest that we had maybe thought might possibly happen.
Well, not least because I feel like Fellaini and Herrera didn't join the attack.
Nope.
Right, so two of your midfielders pretty much stayed in United's own half, so that when they were sort of counter-pressed and counter-attacked, there was still everything was clogged up and they couldn't get caught on the counter. Right,
exactly.
But the downside of that is really all then United have was direct balls into Zlatan, who would try and control it and maybe have Pogba running off of him. Yep. And I want to say to Liverpool's credit, they never really got caught. I feel like Matip and Lovren really figured out how to handle Zlatan with his back to goal.
And it was there was that great video you retweeted a while back about like how Arsenal dealt with Diego Costa. That was just Mustafi and Koscielny would smash him and then walk away.
Yeah.
And Liverpool like took the opposite approach, which was like they were physical with him, but they were never overly aggressive. Like you didn't. I think there was a few fouls early on, but generally speaking, you didn't see him thrown to the ground and getting calls. You didn't see a lot of over the back challenges. It was just sort of stand him up, be physical, frustrate him, and force him into kind of using those judo skills. More than he probably wanted to. So it was a lot of like extended foot trying to settle the ball, but not really being able to collect it cleanly or bring it into himself.
I think they knew they had cover, right? Because say if it's Lovren goes and challenges him, he doesn't need to foul him because even if the ball like bounces 5 yards away from then Matip's there to sort of hoover it up. You know what I'm saying? And I want to give special shout out to Dejan Lovren for besting Zlatan in the martial arts. There were a couple of times when he would sort of step into him and he would do the long leg at a weird high angle and win their ball that way. And
I think it really did work because, I mean, obviously then it's Zlatan up by himself. He's trying to settle the ball, getting knocked around a little bit. But I do think later, I think it was in the second half, is when he had the header that Pogba plays a good ball in. And Zlatan, 9 times out of 10, he puts on frame, and I would say 6 times out of 10, he puts in the back of the net. And in this situation, it looked almost as though he had headed it back across the goal for someone running on. But if you watch that replay, he's absolutely trying to put it on goal. He's just, I think, kind of out of sorts that he hasn't had many opportunities. So when they come, he's not quite as sharp as he would be had he have had regular opportunities in the game.
It's also a very wide angle. We talked earlier about Ted Knutsen's expected goals story. I'm guessing the sort of percentage expected goal scoring chance from that wide with your head has got to be like 10%. Right?
Yeah. And so I think this overall, I'll say, is an example of a game where I think I obviously had a vested interest as a Manchester United fan, but it's also just, it's Man United Liverpool. It's always going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, I had a vested interest as just a Premier League spectacle. Right? I mean, the reason we planned to do this podcast is because we were kind of expecting some sort of fireworks game, right?
Yeah, and so I definitely think it wasn't a fireworks game, but it was still a very interesting 0-0 game. Like I was like not having had much sleep from waking up early to record our show earlier today, I found myself captivated for the full 90 minutes. It was only afterwards that those eyelids got a little bit heavy. So during the game, I was very much into it. I enjoyed the adjustments. I thought Jurgen Klopp sprinted in at halftime, ran past Jose Mourinho, and I really do think it was because he was so ready to draw plans up and kind of come out in the second half. And I think you saw that. There was a good 15, 20-minute period to start the second half, maybe 30 minutes, where Liverpool really kind of went at United. You saw the gegenpress. You saw people being put under pressure. United were even less comfortable in possession. That's where you had those two decent chances, the one for Emre Can, the one for Felipe Coutinho, where David De Gea, if he's not David De Gea, those are probably goals.
Yeah, those are two great saves, especially the Coutinho one. Yeah. Right? And I feel like maybe the biggest adjustment Klopp made is a kind of a simple one. It was just Sturridge out, Coutinho joins the front three, Adam Lallana back into midfield. Yeah. And I think that kind of made a difference. Because, even though I want to say Mourinho was successful in his game plan, Liverpool still had the better chances easily, right?
I think so. And this analogy probably isn't going to make much sense.
Let's definitely do it then.
Well, so the area that I live in, Richmond, is a very, rapidly developing area, but you still have the people who've been there for 15 and 20 years who kind of want everything to look the same. They want everything to go through like a kind of a phased approach process. And so then there's people who've come in, bought huge plots of land, and they're developing big apartment complexes. And everyone is like, well, we should organize meetings to discuss it. And there was at one point, I think the owner wrote on this message board, you guys know I own this, right? I can do what I want. And it kind of feels like that a little bit with United. It's yes, everybody they have this expensive squad. You look at it on paper, they've got all these crazy attacking players that should be really exciting.
Yeah.
But it's still Jose Mourinho's squad. And he's sort of you guys know what I'm doing. I'm not coming out here to win this game. I'm not coming out here to go at them and prove that I can be as attacking as Jurgen Klopp. I'm coming out here to frustrate and maybe get a win, but get a point on the road when we need a point on the road.
All right, here's the Man United fan question for you then. So it was disputed. Possession was either 35% United or 42% United. Mourinho quibbled with it in the press conference. Yeah. But most people are reporting it's the lowest possession United have had in the Premier League era, which goes back to 92. And when Mourinho came in and took over Manchester United, there was some expectation that he would have a more expansive attacking style, right? So does this feel at all like a betrayal of Manchester United traditions, or was it a smart move to just take the 0-0 and not get beat by Jurgen Klopp?
Are you asking me now, or are you asking me before the game?
I'm asking you right now.
Right now, I think it was smart.
Okay.
Before, and keep in mind, this is a game that, again, I talked about it on the show. I talked about it on Twitter that, I audibly cursed when I was reminded that coming out of the international break, this was the game that United had. Yeah. Because the results haven't been that great. And if you look at
ever since the Manchester Derby defeat, right?
And that's the big one. And that's what I do go back to, is that was a game where he did try to go a little bit more attacking. You started Mkhitaryan, who has not since started, I believe, and got punished for it. And I think if you've struggled a little bit in Europa League, you haven't had quite the fast start that you expected in the league, and you've already lost to one of your main rivals, you don't want to lose to the other one this early in the season.
So to go with your developer analogy, this is a guy who's still building the foundations and doesn't want to put some fancy design on top of it. He's still making sure that those foundations are absolutely solid. And so you've got guys like Ashley Young doing defensive work on the left wing.
Yeah, I think, and then if we want to take it one step further,
we definitely do.
It's just frustrating because then as you walk by, you have the mound of not yet used building materials that are all sitting there glistening. They're all golden and pretty. Yeah. And then it's just these kind of big, strong pillars that are already installed. Really? That's what you're going with? That's your design.
But your fancy Armenian import is still
exactly
still stuck there.
Your fancy Armenian tile. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so with that, I'll say I'm fully aware that I think I'm more positive on this because of the way results have gone. I really did not want to lose this game. For some reason, most of my friends in the Richmond area who like soccer are Liverpool fans. Didn't really want a whole stream of text messages from them, so I'm okay with it overall. But I understand why a lot of people, neutrals especially, are not.
So what about Liverpool fans? Will they be frustrated by this in terms of it being a halt on their sort of momentum, or is this sort of an okay result?
I think it's definitely an okay result because it's obviously a dominant performance from Liverpool. They created chances that, again, another goalkeeper probably doesn't save. Right. So they were able to kind of carve open limited opportunities here and there. Yeah. I think they're probably also going to be frustrated by the number of fouls committed by Manchester United players. Yeah. There probably could have been a few more cards. My specific prediction was that under Herrera would pick up a yellow card. I think he was the only United player who didn't. Yeah. Everybody else did. He definitely could have for running his mouth a few times, for getting into it with Emre Can a few times. So I think if you're Liverpool, you're frustrated for that reason, but not at all by your game plan, because they definitely looked the more cohesive unit.
Yeah, it looked like two teams whose plans were working, weirdly. And I think the end result is a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think
and
so.
It's certainly, as a spectacle, it wasn't lacking any of the sort of fiery stuff that you expect from the English Classico, as I jokingly call it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think, like, you did see that really, I mean, in the first minute or two?
Yeah.
Rashford comes through.
James Milner
Hamas is on the ground. And there's some question of, like, do you hand out a yellow card in the first minute or the second minute? And we've seen people get red cards very quickly in this game. So I think you did see everybody kind of aware of the momentousness of the occasion. And that's like the historical rivalry, that's new talented players, that's the managerial battle, it's everything in between.
If I was to summarize like a piece of action from this game, I'd be like, oh, good touch, nice pass, ooh, tough tackle.
Yep.
Those are the three things that kept happening like constantly in a row.
Yeah, I think I would add in there maybe like, huh? Because there was a couple of those like Ander Herrera trying to lift the ball over the top to no one. Yeah. And then there was a few different passes. Near the end, Liverpool's keeper just kicked the ball straight out of bounds. Jurgen Klopp lost his mind on the sidelines. So there were definitely some like moments that pointed to a high-pressure situation that otherwise maybe wouldn't have happened. The technical ability would have shown through except for the spectacle.
All right, I think we've spent long enough on this game, probably more than anyone else in the entire world will.
I'd say so.
If you hear a podcast that spends more than 14 minutes on Manchester United Liverpool, then 0-0 draw at Anfield, please let us know. If we've got some competition, we'll go a minute longer next time.
Yes, but I want to say my final takeaway from this is that I think Liverpool fans should be positive about this game, maybe a little bit frustrated that they didn't come away with all 3 points. I do think United fans should be okay with this result, but I think it's okay for everyone, including United fans, to expect more from that team going forward.
Well, eventually you'll be able to put the Armenian tile on.
Yes.
Right? But you can't do it till the foundations are steady.
This is true.
Coming up later this week, it's the Champions League, Taylor. Tuesday's Champions League standout game is, for me, Borussia Dortmund away to Sporting Club de Portugal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know from what I've seen online, I think the Sporting Club de Portugal fans, or at least the club itself, has already put up like messages welcoming the Dortmund fans.
Is that right?
I think they're trying to create a festive, happy environment, not a conflict and hostile environment.
I want to give a shout out to Fox Sports because they've taken our advice. I don't think they listened to us, but I think they saw the trend of gearing their coverage a little more towards US men's national team fans. And they literally put a graphic up recently of catch all of Christian Pulisic's upcoming games and included this Sporting game. This is how we knew that it was going to be one of the featured games, right? It's on Fox Sports 2 on Tuesday.
And here comes the conspiracy, because I know that we were checking to see what games were going to be on FS1, FS2, and ESPN. Yeah. And we checked FS2 initially was Madrid, Liga Warsaw, yeah? And then we checked back like 30 seconds later, and it had changed to this game. Yeah. So it does seem like somebody was like, wait, no, that's not what we're doing.
I think it's been a recent pivot towards, all right, we're going full Pulisic.
Yeah.
I think it's because he's playing more. Yeah. Now there's more of a guarantee that you're going to get some Pulisic and not just get a picture of him sitting on the bench. You look doubtful because maybe he won't play on Tuesday.
I think he's not going to play on Tuesday.
At all?
Maybe he'll get some minutes. I mean, who knows at this point? He may start. I just think because you do have that league suspension for Emre Moore.
Yeah.
And because Ousmane Dembele didn't start in that last league game against Hertha, that I think you might see Dembele and Moore start outside so that Pulisic will start, Pulisic, before we hear about it, will start this weekend as a result.
Counter-argument, Mario Götze wasn't that great against Hertha. I think Schürrle and Royce have had some injuries.
I think. Or they're just dead. Who knows?
No, they've had some. I mean, that would be the ultimate injury, right? Yeah. But I think they had some injuries, which is why they weren't involved on Friday. So there's still a chance that Pulisic is either in the starting attacking 3 or is like first off the bench.
Yeah. I also want to say, though, that I think it's just Fox does deserve some credit for this, because I do think in years past, when you've had kind of a day like this where there are huge teams playing, but they're generally playing smaller teams, like Madrid, as I mentioned, is playing Warsaw.
Yeah.
That's not like
Michael Pazdan's Warsaw.
Yes, excuse me, I apologize. But like, I do think in years past that would be the game they showed on TV.
Because it was Madrid and because we could put Ronaldo's face on TV.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think to show two teams that are going to be exciting, they're going to offer different things going forward, different things attacking-wise. We'll have some big-ish players in there. It's nice to see that that's one of the games, and then Leverkusen-Tottenham is the other one.
I mean, the counter-argument is just that they've gone with whoever is the most popular face, and right now the most popular face is Pulisic.
Well, that's also a decent chat, yeah.
But we'll have an eye on both of those games, right? We'll maybe have a report on, let's say, Wednesday's show, because on Wednesday it's inarguably the Champions League game of the week. It's Barcelona hosting Pep Guardiola and Manchester City.
I thought we were going Arsenal Ludogorets, but that's fine. Whatever you want to go with.
Both are fine games.
To each his own.
Both are fine games. But yeah, Guardiola going back to the new camp, especially after what happened last time he was there.
Yep.
With Bayern, didn't go so well.
Not so much.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that on Wednesday. Speaking of Fox and Fox Sports related media, I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Alexi Lalas for putting a question about what does rhythm mean. Remember that? On his most recent Mutant Gene pod, he asked Ziggy Schmidt, what do you think Jurgen Klinsmann means when he says rhythm? And best of all, he credited us with the question.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I just want to say thanks to Alexi Lalas, because it's not often that sort of the smaller podcasts get accredited by the bigger names.
This is true. This is very true. I will say, though, I think we're left with more question marks about what rhythm means.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, Ziggy Schmidt tried his very best to answer, and I think, if anything, it's just evidence that rhythm isn't an actual term.
Yeah, the loud exhale because he tried to give an answer and then Alexi kind of pressed him a little bit, and then there was a loud exhale. And to me, in that loud exhale, you could hear, I don't know what Jurgen Klinsmann is talking about. But he didn't want to say that, so he was trying to maybe fill some gaps, find some explanation that worked.
So Alexias has either maybe found us a couple more listeners who may not have heard of us but listened to the Mutant Gene Pod, or he's guaranteed that Ziggy Schmidt will never, ever listen to the Total Soccer Show.
Yeah, I feel like it was more the latter, in the way that he sort of just kind of resignedly answered that question without much really? This is a question? Okay, fine.
Which is a shame, because it sounded like he had a lot of downtime. That's what he was saying, that ever since he'd left Seattle, he had a long honey-do list and he was struggling to fill the days.
Oh, yeah?
So he could fill it with TSS. It's a show a day.
All right? Yeah. Come on in, Ziggy. You're more than welcome. We've got a couch here for you.
And we won't ask you that question.
We will not
ask you that question.
Nope.
We have some scouting reports, Taylor, to finish today's show. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 scouting reports and, I believe, 2 haikus.
Amazingly so, yes.
So these are the reports we received about promising young players that the fine people of the TSS Scouting Network are keeping an eye on for us.
Up first, we've got John, not that John Adams, scouting Shayon Harrison, the 19-year-old striker for Tottenham. John says that Shayon is back to his old tricks, which means netting penalties. He came off the bench in Spurs' 2-1 loss to Man City in the Premier League 2, scoring Spurs' only goal, which was a penalty. Harrison now has 5 Premier League 2 goals this season, with 4 from the spot.
Oh, that makes it less impressive, I feel.
Whatever, man. He's clinical. He's clinical.
Up next, Julie Nishimura Jensen is scouting Alan Halilovic, player I am tracking. I want him to do well. 20-year-old attacking midfielder for Hamburg, Bobby Wood's teammate. Okay, Julie says, Bobby Wood and Alan Halilovic got a lot of time together this weekend. Ellipses. On the bench, ellipses, in a 0-0 draw with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Wood did go on in the 74th minute, but Allen never saw the field. On the plus side, Hamburg did move up to 17th place, which sounds good until you remember there are only 18 teams in the Bundesliga.
It does. Speaking of things that sound a certain way, Daryl, if Ebenezer Scrooge got a Christmas card from Hamburg, what would he say?
I don't know.
Because when you say Hamburg, it sounds a little bit like humbug.
We'd say bar Hamburg.
Yeah, Hamburg humbug. That's what I'm thinking it would be.
I should have been able to figure that out.
It's okay. We're not into the Christmas season yet. We're still in pumpkin spice season. Michael Fisk scouting
from September to February.
August to February, I think. Yeah, nowadays. Michael Fisk scouting Andreas Christensen, the 20-year-old defender for Gladbach, who's on loan from Chelsea. Here's our first haiku. A pain in the butt, Christensen's gluteral tear. Hope it's not for long. As alluded to in the haiku, Andreas suffered a gluteral tear in Gladbach's 0-0 draw with Hamburg that will see him out of action for the, quote, foreseeable future.
Ooh, TSS Scouting Network, players dropping like flies.
Yeah.
Dropping like flies at the end of the first episode of Westworld. Spoiler alert.
Nicely done. Nicely done. It's weird that we got 2 scouting reports from 2 different scouts on 2 different teams from the same game.
That's true, yeah. All right, final report that we have today is from Jasper Kosikov, who is scouting the 18-year-old Jessie Fleming, who you may remember playing for Canada at the 2015 Women's World Cup. She's now playing for UCLA Bruins, I believe is how you're supposed to say that, yeah. So she's playing college soccer now, and here's what's happening, Taylor.
And it's unfair.
Jessie Fleming has been utterly destroying NCAA Division I women's soccer so far. She scored 8 goals in 11 games for UCLA from deep in midfield and also from all over the field. She's been running onto placed balls, hitting long-range strikes and scoring game-winning headers. Jessie Fleming's play has led authors to wax poetically in articles titled 13 Thoughts on That Jessie Fleming Gif and Her Inevitable Domination of Women's College Soccer, with the subhead, There's absolutely no reason that we should be watching Jessie Fleming play college soccer. You've seen this gif, right? This is Kevin McCauley, who we often reference on the show. Mm-hmm. It's the weird sort of, I don't even know what that trick's called, but I know that the Florida defender was thoroughly confused.
Yeah, she rolls it back with her right foot into her left heel to play it around the defender and then runs around the defender.
And goes around the other side. That's always the sort of the biggest schooling, right?
Yes, and most importantly, though, in this whole situation, is that we have another haiku.
Yes, we do. Okay, so Jasper says that similar to Jessie Fleming's on-the-field results, she's also an artist with a camera and a star of Instagram, and all her teammates are constantly commenting and liking what she does on Instagram. So here is the haiku. Jessie Fleming's boot strikes. College soccer screams with fright. Double tap to like. I'm sorry I ruined it, Jasper. It was so funny I laughed halfway through.
Beautiful haiku. Delivery left something to be desired.
Yeah,
but I think I might have stuttered through mine as well, so don't worry about it, buddy.
Haikus are hard. It's a weird rhythm, right?
Mm-hmm. Talking's hard sometimes.
Talking is hard. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, even though it was hard.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We will be back with you on Wednesday with our review of the Champions League action. And if you're subscribed to Goalmouth, I'll be with you tomorrow morning.
Hooray!
Slice it.